That's crazy. Ain't no way they read them contracts. Ain't no way. What up, YouTube? It's your boy Big Seven. We back with another video. It's been a lot of controversy about around the Just Pearly Things channel as of late. I'd say over the past week or so, and one of her, I'm not gonna say employees, but one of her, usual collaborators that's on the panels a lot, Sarah Garvey. He's made his own response video to all of the controversy that's been around the channel as of late, and I kind of just want to get into that and get a behind the scenes look at the whole ordeal from the point of view of someone who knows her personally and has worked with her personally, because um over my time, viewing the Just Pearly Things channel and panels, uh every now and again I've seen Sarah Garvey on the channel. I'd say before King Riches, before Auntie Jenny, you know what I mean? He was there before both of them, but he wasn't like an employee of the channel like they are. So I just want to hear the perspective he has from a behind the scenes perspective of someone who actually isn't employed by Pearl but does work alongside her on a usual basis. So let's get right into the video and see what he has to say and see if we can, clear up any misconceptions or get a clearer view of what's actually going on and the from a business perspective over there at the Just Pearly Things channel.
Right now, before we even get started, all right? If you have watched two or more of our videos and you have not subscribed,
Tell them.
then we have what, pal?
Beef.
What have we got?
Beef.
Exactly, so you better get doing that.
If you've watched two or more of my videos and you have not subscribed, we have beef. You know what I'm saying? You better go ahead and subscribe because I'm gonna have a lot more content coming your way very soon. Yeah. So hit that subscribe button.
Right now. Over to you, pal.
I'm making this video today that I didn't initially want to make, but
My boy representing, you know what I'm saying, for the continent. You see what's on his chest. I just wanted to point that out real quick.
there comes a time when we're all at a crossroad and have to make a decision. And sometimes that decision can affect you morally, it can affect you spiritually, and it can affect you financially. But it's a decision that we can't shy away from. Now, recently, Just Pearly Things has been caught up in some controversy. Why? She has interviewed avid racist and known racist Nick Fuentes. He is also an anti-Semite. What did Pearl do when she interviewed him? What she done was that she laughed with him and seems to agree with a lot of his points.
Talk about instances of like when they initially freed the slaves, there were some slaves that felt so indebted to their owners that they would travel across states to pay them back, and they actually had a really good relationship with them.
Now, if she had said some of these things,
Now, if I'm a slave and I make it away from, you know what I'm saying, massa, ain't no motherfucking way I'm going back, you know what I'm saying, to do some more free work. You crazy? Now, I don't know where she may have got that information from or how true it may be, but that just sounds crazy. I ain't gonna lie.
about the Jewish community, she would have been cancelled in a hot minute. Ask Kyrie Irving. Ask Kanye West. Now, this isn't about the Jewish community. This is about us. Okay? And so after that interview, Pearl decided to make an apology video, which was, in my personal point of view, disingenuous and a PR stunt. And all in all, it came from a place of deception.
Guys, people say that stuff about me. They say I'm sexist. They say I'm a misogynist. And, I really just like to give people the benefit of the doubt. when I interview them. I don't go into interviews trying to interrogate someone. I just more try to listen and see where they're coming from. In hindsight, that wasn't smart. And in hindsight, I should have had someone, maybe Sarah Garvey, maybe another content creator that could have pushed back more and really was more educated on the topics that he was talking about than I was, because I certainly was not an expert in any of the stuff that he was talking about.
Now, I've been on social media for a while, and I have done interviews with the likes of Tommy Robinson, Sargon of Akkad, politicians like Lee Jasper, and also Lin May and people from the music industry like So Solid, Mega Man to be exact. Now, Pearl was reacting to my content prior to coming to the UK. And so when she came to the UK, I was very interested in the content that she would actually put out. And it just so happened that she was putting out content that I was interested in, similar to what the late, great Kevin Samuels actually put out. And I understand it because I myself had been embroiled in court cases and things of that nature when it comes to the mother of my son, and understand that the gynocentric order in which we live in is something that needs to be spoken about. So when she came to London, she said that she wanted to make a podcast. And I said, no problem. Okay, let's talk about it. And I decided to feature on her show. Now, when I featured on her show, because of my following in the UK, people would tune in. So essentially, I helped Pearl grow her channel. Okay, I was on there week to week, and I was working with her based on a fee.
Okay, so like I said, he was a very early collaborator in her initial videos, because I do know that a lot of her early content was like street interviews, similar to his Complicated channel, or similar to what Sneeko was doing with the 1 Minute podcast. He was there from the beginning when the actual podcast setup first started, and he was on a lot of those videos. So based on what he's saying, he was a content creator as well, which I wasn't aware of all his content with interviews of these different politicians and different somewhat celebrities. So what he's saying is, when he initially started coming onto her podcast setup on a week-to-week basis, him just being there helped her her UK fan base grow. You know what I'm saying, based off his audience. So he essentially brought his own audience over to the Just Pearly Things channel from collaborating with her so often. So I did just want to point that out real quick.
So the tragic death of Kevin Samuels happened, and there was a vacuum within the manosphere space. Who was it going to be filled by? It was actually filled by Just Pearly Things, along with other content creators. Now, I believe that the reason why this space was filled is because Kevin Samuels had a large following of black men. And these black men were essentially fed up with the way feminism had taken over their community, specifically their women. So when he died, there was a vacuum and a lot of black men looking for content like this. And it was filled by Pearl. And I believe that Pearl rose to fame because she herself was the opposite of what those men had been seeing. She was a white woman. She wasn't the types of women that they had been seeing. And essentially, she was regurgitating Kevin Samuels' content. So I began working with Pearl, and from the beginning, I started to think that maybe this girl has a colonial mindset. Now, we all know that we don't want to be paranoid, so I kept working with her. However, the more I worked with her is the more that I saw. She had a colonial type viewpoint when it came to black people. And I had to school her a few times on what it was like to be black and the black experience, and also what slavery and colonization was actually like.
Do you think that historical catastrophes must be compensated for?
No.
No.
That's stupid.
So then, I'm not agreeing or disagreeing.
Yeah.
So then, how come there were groups of people that got compensation then?
How come?
For instance, like Jewish people, Chinese people, Japanese people with the
Native Americans, you know what I'm saying? The only people that has never gotten compensation for their traumatic experiences are African Americans in America. Just to point that out. She thinks it's nonsensical to do that, you know what I'm saying, for any group. I'm assuming she means any group. You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna assume she just means particularly African Americans, but that's what she thinks. But there are these other groups that have received reparations, if you will, from traumatic events that happen in history. So
with the bombs, like there were groups of people who got compensated.
I don't know.
So it wasn't fair.
What? Well, I'm talking about like when I think about group, I think about reparations. So I mean, maybe if the people were still alive today, like I don't know, maybe. But like when you said historical, I thought you meant like at the past, not the present.
Yeah, so like in the past, so like people talk about slavery. So in the past, you know, the Holocaust happened. In the past, you know, the Japanese, but people got compensated for it.
Yeah.
There's a book, right, called How Europe Underdeveloped Africa. And when you read that book, you realize that the whole Industrial Revolution and stuff like that was started because of the colonization. And you just think, well, if you didn't do that, then you wouldn't be as successful.
So, what do you mean by the colonization?
So the colonization of Africa, so both the people and the resources, right? There's a direct correlation between the colonization of Africa and the Industrial Revolution.
Okay.
And so with all the metals and the rubber and all this kind of stuff coming from Africa, it fueled the Industrial Revolution of the West.
Wait, so you're saying like in Africa, when you say colonize, you're saying like did England come in and colonize?
Yeah, like so European, France, Spain, Portugal, England.
And they like enslaved Africans, and that's what you're saying. Okay.
So they enslaved and at least colonized the continent.
Okay.
So when you colonize a continent and then you take ownership of the resources, you're able to
exactly. Majority of the resources that are necessary for the world to run the way it does, you know what I'm saying? A lot of those resources comes from Africa, and what he's saying is Africa, you know what I'm saying, has been colonized from these different European countries, you know what I'm saying, and was essentially underdeveloped and essentially just, you know what I'm saying, used and stripped of their resources to empower these other countries.
To gather those resources together and use them to your own benefit.
Right.
And so you gather those resources, use them to your own benefit and build up your economy, all the while messing up the economy of that actual country.
Right.
So that video was filmed in 2022. And in that video, what you saw was me attempting to tell Pearl and show Pearl what colonization was like. How people went to another group of people and took their resources and took what was theirs and built their empire off of it. So when Pearl now plays like she doesn't know what colonization is and she doesn't know what slavery is, and she says these insensitive statements, in that video I actually attempted to give her a book. It was called How Europe Underdeveloped Africa. I've read it myself. She semi-dismissed that book. She kind of dismissed that book. And then she went on with herself to go and interview a man like Nick Fuentes. Pearl has Africans that work for her. Now, Nigeria has many issues. Now, the disparity in Nigeria has rich and poor people living just on the breadline. And Pearl has these types of people working for her. They edit her videos. They make her thumbnails.
So, look what I have here. This is evidence to show how hard my Americans work.
No, hold on. You forgot, yeah? What? This is how hard my white Americans work.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
They're very hard workers.
Yes.
I like how they work. My white Americans really work hard. You see that?
They inspire us to work harder.
No. Do you know what? They don't even inspire. They're working hard for themselves, bro.
Oh, okay.
You know, they're putting in a lot of work, yeah? They put in a lot of work. My white
Yes.
white Americans
You guys should
work hard.
Work hard. Work
Yeah,
hard.
you could.
So Pearl has taken people on from Africa, which on the surface looks like a good thing. And I guess it is. Africans are being fed, they're taking money from her, they are feeding their family. Amazing. However, with a colonial mindset, this can be quite dangerous. And what happened during that interview with Nick Fuentes was that she used an age-old tactic that colonizers use, which was the divide and rule tactic. She pitted African Americans versus Africans when she spoke about how hard Africans work compared to how hard African Americans work. And she also used the term, my Africans. Much of what Pearl says is determined by her management, which she has said to me on many occasions that she shares with Candace Owens. So when you have a colonial...
Now that I didn't know. That I did not know. So she shares management with Candace Owens, who is a very right leaning, you know what I'm saying, activist, I guess you would call her. That's interesting.
mindset, and you have a management who tell you what to say. What generally happens, in my personal point of view, and what I actually saw, was that she began to start paying people pittance. She began to start offering contracts to people that owned them, just like a colonial master would. Case in point, myself and Pearl sat down to have a conversation about me signing to her contractually. And I want to make this very clear. I have never signed to the Just Pearly Things network. I have always been an independent. Pearl has known that,
Smart.
and I have known that. And so anytime I worked with Pearl, we had
Smart
agreed a
move.
fee, and I worked for that fee. I have never been signed to the Just Pearly Things contracts. However, she has signed a few Africans, namely King Riches and Auntie Jenny. Now, I have no problem with a King Riches or an Auntie Jenny. However,
Let me just say real quick, the first time I ever seen Auntie Jenny on the Just Pearly Things panel, she was going crazy. Like she was snapping on them. She was snapping on them young hoes, putting them in their place. You know what I'm saying? Really telling themselves about themselves from a you know what I'm saying, older seasoned woman's perspective. You know what I'm saying? Like really going in on them folks, telling them that the shit they done went through is nothing. You know what I'm saying? All the excuses. You know what I'm saying? Really just telling them about themselves. I think she kind of took it to another level. You know what I'm saying? Like she brought the fire to it. She made it more entertaining, I guess you could say. Even though it was pretty entertaining, I guess. But Auntie Jenny, she be snapping.
if we look at the contracts that they signed, you would understand the reason why I use the term colonization and colonial. Now, myself and Pearl sat down to have a conversation, and she expressed to me that she wanted to do a new segment for her show. In that segment, she said that she would like me to present a topical news show on a day-to-day basis. So I said, okay, no problem. Talk to me. What are we talking about? And she said she would want me within her studio 4 days per week. I said, okay, from what time? She said from 10 in the morning till 5 o'clock in the evening.
10 to 5.
And I said, okay, well, that is 7 hours. I said, so working 4 to 5 days a week for 7 hours is essentially a day job. I said to her, okay, so what is my guaranteed fee at the end of the month? what is the salary? And she looks at me and she says, we do not do guarantees and we do not do salaries. So I said, so if you don't do guarantees and you don't do salaries, what is it that you actually do? And she said she does percentages. So I said, okay, cool. Well, what's the percentage? She said, Sarah, you're the high end, so you will get 70-30. So I said, fine, okay, let me listen. 70% goes to me and 30% goes to you. Now she looked at me and she said, no, 70% goes to me, Pearl, and 30% goes to me, Sarah Garvey. And that's when I started scratching my head. And I said, hang on a minute. So are you telling me that's a high-end contract for you? And she said, yes. And I said, so are you saying that just Pearly Things Network has other people on low-end contracts? She said, yes. I said, King Rich's and Auntie Jenny? She said, yes. I said, what's the low end? She said, it's 10 to 15%. So
Bruh. 10 to 15%. I don't know about y'all, but 10 to 15% is crazy. Even a 30% was crazy. Now, if it would have been like 60-40 and he gets 40, you know what I'm saying? I guess that kind of would have been more reasonable because they are using her facilities, you know what I'm saying? Her editors and designers for like thumbnails and whatnot, you know what I'm saying? All the back end people, you know what I'm saying? I guess she would be paying those people out of her percentage. You know what I'm saying? So that would kind of like balance everything out. But for her to be receiving 85 to 90% of King Rich's and Auntie Jenny's content is crazy. Come on, like 10 to 15% is what you give them from their content just because it's on your platform and and you pay the editors and thumbnail makers. Like, that's just not enough. And I guess that's the colonization mentality that he's speaking on in this video. You know what I'm saying? Just like colonizer takes all, or colonizer takes the major majority. You know what I'm saying? Which is like a colonizer mindset. You feel me? And it's crazy because he offered her the book, which most likely would have explained the concept extensively, you know what I'm saying, to where she would be able to come to a deeper understanding on the matter. And she like kind of just dismissed it. I'm sure she probably didn't read it. But nah, that's crazy. 10 to 15%. Like let's say, for example, let's say one of Auntie Jenny's videos brings in $1,000 in revenue. Auntie Jenny would get like $100 to $150, and Pearl would get the other $850 to $900, and then out of that, pay the editor and video maker whatever their rate is. So she'd be making out probably like, let's say on the low end, at least like $500. And Auntie Jenny, all she got was $100. That's crazy.
essentially, she could be owning 80% of the content,
More than 80%.
which is basically the monetized views on somebody's channel, and they only take home 15% of the money? She said yes. I said, Pearl, how long are these contracts for? She said 3 years. So I said, let me get this straight. You want to own me for 3 years?
Nigga, what? Bruh. I ain't gonna lie. I really wasn't even like tripping on Pearl like until I heard this contract shit. Cause these contracts is crazy. 3 years, you only get 10 to 15% of your own content for 3 years. I can see if it was like a rookie contract, you know what I'm saying? And you only get like 10 to 15% for like 3 months, 6 months, just to see how dependable you are, see how your content performs, see, you know what I'm saying? Just a few different things like simple rookie contract, short term, you know what I'm saying? Then you get an increase to like 25 to 40% after that, you know what I'm saying? If you exceptional, you know what I'm saying? Different, you know what I'm saying? When you're doing business, setting up these contracts, you know what I'm saying? It would go on a person to person basis, you know what I'm saying? For example, like the music industry, every artist isn't getting the same contract. They're not getting paid the same, you know what I mean? So to if she was to put them in a rookie contract, with that particular setup, them receiving 10 to 15% for a short term just to see how they perform, and then give them a updated contract that's more worth their while, it would make sense. But to have a nigga receiving 10 to 15% of the revenue that comes from their own content, their own IP for 3 years, well, you might as well go get a job, cause that's crazy. That's crazy. 3 years.
To take 70% of my ad revenue, keep me in your studio from 10 o'clock in the morning till 5 o'clock
It's a
clock
day
in the
job.
evening
Might as
for
well get a
4 to
job.
5 days a week, and you are not guaranteeing me any money. I said respectfully, for what reason would I work
And no guarantee.
for your company? She said, because we have a great studio and we have great lighting and we have great editors that will edit your stuff down. Now, I may be a lot of things, but I'm not an
Bro, bro, Pearl out here just trying folks like, that's crazy. Like I wasn't even tripping on like her having like I wasn't even tripping on her having Nick Fuentes up there, or you know what I'm saying, the insensitive comments that she had made in regards to her African employees and whatnot. But these contracts is like the straw that broke the camel's back, nigga. These contracts are crazy. And she talking about I have editors in a studio that you can use, you know what I'm saying? So essentially you only giving them 10 to 15% because they're using your facilities. Like 10 to 15% ain't shit for something that should be belonging to me just because, you know what I'm saying, I'm I'm using your facilities. That makes no sense.
idiot. I may be cool, I may be calm, I may be collected, but I'm not a fool. And essentially, the colonial mindset of Pearl has people working on her quote unquote plantation for absolute pittance, when a year ago I suggested to her to look into exactly what colonization was, and she acted dumb.
Guys, people say that stuff about me. They say I'm sexist. They say I'm a misogynist. And, I really just like to give people the benefit of the doubt when I interview them. I don't go into interviews trying to interrogate someone. I just more try to listen and see where they're coming from. In hindsight, that wasn't smart. And in hindsight, I should have had someone, maybe Sarah Garvey, maybe another content creator that could have pushed back more and really was more educated on the topics that he was talking about than I was, because I certainly was not an expert in any of the stuff that he was talking about.
Now, I grew up in a time where there were brilliant R&B girl groups like TLC, and also brilliant R&B artists like Toni Braxton. They both sold millions and millions and millions of records, but they ended up broke. Why? Contracts. They were signed to contracts that did not favor them. And essentially, what Pearl is trying to do is
The
come
same
back in
thing.
with the same contracts and do the exact same thing to the manosphere and do the exact same thing to the red pill community. Why? Because Kevin Samuels left a gap. And Kevin Samuels' fan base was predominantly black men. And Pearl has come in there and attempted to be top of the food chain. I will not be a part of this game, and I will not be a part of this colony. I have always been an independent. If people in the UK who can actually say and watch all of my content can say that I've been around before Pearl even arrived in the UK, what would I look like signing my life away essentially? 70%.
Would look fucking stupid. And she knew she would have to offer him like a higher percentage than them based on the fact that he was there before them, assisted her, I'm sure, with bringing more attraction to her page, assisting her with, you know what I'm saying, maybe even setting up the podcast in certain aspects. Like, but to offer the man 30% is crazy. Even like 40% is crazy. But if he was to offer like 40% across the board, it'd be more understandable. But to be offering 10 to 15% to the to the to the people that already work for you, nah, that's crazy. That's crazy. Auntie Jenny and King Riches, know what I'm saying, I don't know how much they receive. I don't know how much revenue they bring in, but I do know for a fact they only receive 10 to 15% of it, which is minuscule compared to the amount that just Pearly Things is receiving. And that's crazy. That's that's honestly sad. Like 10 to 15% for 3 years at that. The 3 years is like the icing on the cake. Oh, that's crazy. Ain't no way they read them contracts. Ain't no way.
Of all I own to this woman who just arrived in the UK the other day. She said to me that she's actually looking to sign more talent this year. Good for her. Good for the talent. But I hope they watch this video and I hope they realize exactly what they will be signing.
Facts.
And I actually hope that this video makes her think about the ways, because essentially I had been with her from the beginning and I had helped grow her channel. And if she could suggest this to me, somebody who helped her grow her channel,
Somebody who was there from the jump, from day one, damn near, like 30% for 3 years, bro. Like I'm just trying to convey to y'all like how disrespectful that is. Like that's like pure disrespect. That's crazy.
then you are nothing to her. I have only given you around 30% of what I know. We haven't even touched on the very odd and weird parties that Pearl likes to invite people to. And I was invited to one last year, and she told me that her manager was coming from America and they were going to have a party. And very interestingly, they said that it was going to be board games. And I said, okay, cool. I don't mind playing Monopoly. I don't mind playing Snakes and Ladders. When I got there and I asked her about the board game, she said, no, a board game. There was a whiteboard in the living room. And what she proposed was that we all have a time on the whiteboard and we do what she says and we talk about certain things which were quite sexual and we put them on the whiteboard. But you know what I saw? I always saw her manager Kobe in the corner filming everything. And we've all spoken amongst ourselves and we've spoken about Hollywood and the things that go down. And within that party, what I saw was if people were on that board doing very sexual things and doing things while they were drunk, that stuff was being recorded. But we'll speak about it another time.
Here, I want to ask the men in here. I want to ask the men in here. Okay. Raise your hand if you think women like violence.
There, homeowner, Rich from Solar Microscope here. I help educate.
Hey yo. Honestly, based off the contracts alone, I have like a different perspective of Pearl now. Bruh, 10 to 15% for 3 years with no guarantees. Like what type of deal is that? That's not a. Did her manager suggest that? Who is Kobe? Who manages Candace Owens as well? And how did she come in contact with him? I'm pretty sure maybe he reached out to her after he seen the numbers she was getting, but and then she turned down the colonization book that would have probably taught her about a bunch of the nonsense that she was speaking of, you know what I'm saying? Uninformed, making herself look crazy. Like, I ain't gonna lie, like, I really wasn't even tripping, like I said, over the Nick Fuentes interview and, you know what I'm saying, different stuff like that. But after hearing just the contracts alone, just like put a bad taste in my mouth in regards to the whole situation. I can't stop thinking about that shit. 10 to 15%. That is minuscule. That's nothing. Of your own intellectual property, of your own opinions, your own thoughts. You know what I'm saying? Just because you're in her studio. That shit just ain't no way 10 to 15% is worth it. I don't know. Y'all let me know what y'all think in the comments, because this shit crazy.